Let's clear up some stuff about Lucky Luciano. He was deported. He was a crime boss in New York. Supposedly the guy who came up with the general form for the mafia. They'd break it into families. There would be capos and so forth. Anyway, he had always been a dope dealer from the beginning of his criminal career until he died. Uh, but that's often overlooked about him by crime historians, that he was just a mafia guy and blah blah blah. He was a dope dealer from beginning to end. He was deported. He got set up. I'll say that on pretty much a weak charge, if not a fake charge, for pimping women. Whether he did it, it's a long story. But anyway, he got booted out of the country, and he was sent back to Sicily. He elected to go back to Sicily in Italy. He could have gone anywhere because he was born in Italy. But he came to the U.S. when he was 8 years old. He spoke Italian, but it was a broken, not very good Italian. He was an American for all given purposes, and had risen very far from his Italian roots. He really Italian peasant roots. He had lived a very good life in New York, and suddenly, boom, there he is in Italy, which is a crushed country. In 1946, when he went, I mean, they had just been through a war. They were devastated. Not the best place to be. He opened up a hamburger joint, believe it or not, on the shore. And when sailors got shore leave in that area, American sailors, they'd go down there and eat at his place. A lot of them had no idea who he was. He was lonely. There's a report from a U.S. naval lieutenant who went there, and Luciano refused to speak to the enlisted people, but he would speak to officers. And he was just going out of his mind. He was going back crazy. He still was apparently aligning dope deals from Corsica into Canada and then down into New York. He still had a lot of contacts, and he had a lot of money. A lot of that money, by the way, was severely cut when he had to transfer it back into lira. In 1947, a year later, he decides he was under orders not to leave Italy. He decides he's going to go back to Cuba and just run the mafia out of Cuba. Well, and he had meetings and so on and so. But you know what? Nobody wanted really to have anything to do with this guy. Yeah, he's worldwide known. He's a drug dealer, about the worst thing you could be. And the mob guys, the world was changing. It was time to the prohibition was over. The days of splashy gangsters was over. The best way to run a mob in the after the war was to lay low, and they would learn that a few years later with the Kefauver hearings. But Luciano, he didn't get that. He didn't understand. He was arrogant, and he just, although he may have been good at importing dope and some organization, I think he just didn't have his hand on the pulse of the world, who didn't understand. They didn't want him around anymore. And in Cuba, he tried to do a lot of stuff, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, it's reported that a reporter got hold of the story, that he was there. He reported it. They deported him immediately out of the country, put him back in Sicily, this time under 24-hour watch. It's also misunderstood that in Italy they would wink and think, well, it's okay, he's an Italian. No, I mean, the Italians were embarrassed by this guy. He couldn't bribe the security guys around him. The Italian narcotics police were all over him, and they, in fact, were about to arrest him when he dropped dead on the tarmac rather, in Naples in 1962, because of the pressure he was under. So we need just to clear all that up, that he wasn't, that he didn't go to Italy and have a great time and live like a king. He was miserable, and he deserved it. He caused a lot of misery in this world.